This is a presentation of DirecTV, exclusive home of the Red Zone channel, the Fantasy Zone, the Dan Patrick Show, 20 years of NFL Sunday Ticket, the Rich Eisen Show, and America's premier source for sports television.
Tranquility, sexy, moist, playful, naughty, inviting, curious, seductive. No. Yes. I am essence. I am power. I am body. The true eighth wonder of the world. Giant by Andre. Exclusively at the box score, which starts now.
I don't know a lot about sports, but I can drink a lot of beer.
My motto is simple. C's get degrees.
Need a long, inappropriate hug? I'm your man.
I think I'm smarter than you, because I probably am.
Howard Collins for box score.
Oh, that's fresh.
Oh, hello and welcome to the Box Score. I'm Brock in Los Angeles, joined by the Danettes back in Milford, Connecticut. You guys really jumped into the story surrounding the Seahawks and Russell Wilson's blackness. Let's reverse the script here real quick. Seton, have you ever been called out for not being white enough?
I'm about as white as they come. So, no, I've never been called out on that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I remember one time I had a friend get in my car. He was a black guy who went to the public school, and we're pretty good buddies. And he jumped in my car, and I think I had The Show by Dougie Fresh in my tape player. And he looked at me and he just shook his head like, "Come on, man," But he let me go with it. But I just remember him looking at me going, I felt like the whitest guy in the world.
Okay, well, Michael Freeman dialed in today and talked about how some of Russell Wilson's teammates may not be thinking that he's black enough.
They see him as kind of a teacher's pet, and that molds into, they think he's too corporate, all of which are incredibly stupid to me, because a lot of this, Andrew Luck does the exact same thing Russell Wilson does, but Wilson is held to a much harsher standard by some people in the NFL, and this is not, unfortunately, in my opinion, this is not an uncommon thing in the African American community. This is what happens with some of us. Some of us, we get to a certain level and people start seeing us as being part of the corporate structure and losing who we are.
Wow, great insight by Mike Freeman. That was a really interesting part of today's show because not only him as a guest segment, but it kind of morphed into this thing. And Dan was really, it got kind of funny, like, because I think Mike said, Dan, you're the voice of the black people in America. Why don't you say, or something? It got all confused. We were talking about race roles, which I thought we did great today. Sometimes that could be a really awkward subject, but I really enjoyed listening to that interview. I thought they were really great points.
It's just so weak with who these sources are within the Seahawks locker room. If they're 6-0 or 5-1 right now, I don't think you hear a peep from anybody. All of a sudden, their records suggest they're average or they're not quite as good as last year, or there are definitely threats out there to them repeating as Super Bowl champs, and now they're all of a sudden getting on their leader who helped take them to a Super Bowl. Is just very questionable this time of the year with their record being 3-3 that this stuff's coming out.
I find fascinating is the reality of a situation like this. We could all talk about it and do it on a show, but Russell Wilson has to go to work today or tomorrow, and he walks into the locker room. I always think, like, what if that happened here? I know it wouldn't. What if, like, some media guy talked to one of us, and they said, yeah, working with these guys, I really don't like any of them, but we do a good job together. Let's just say someone said that anonymously to a media critic, and no one knew who said it, and then we walked into the room, we all said, someone in this room doesn't like us at all, and you'd have to go back to work the next day. Russell can't quit, and he can't go person by person and ask who did it, so he basically just has to go back to work. That's such an uncomfortable situation.
Well, it makes you wonder, you always hear athletes who don't want to cooperate with the media. Is that part of why? Because it makes life difficult for them in the sense of what Paulie said, going to the workplace. Like Russell Wilson might have gotten burned by that SI article that talked about having his tuxedo in his trunk. I don't know if it was that specific. We know Brady got burned early by a column. Or was it, who got burned by Charlie Pierce? I can't.
No.
Tiger.
Probably a long
Tiger
list.
Woods. Tiger Woods got burned. Like Maybe that explains why guys are gun shy.
And like Paulie was saying, that probably does more harm than good, because if they think Russell is somehow alienating himself by not being black enough, or he's, being too buddy-buddy with the executives or the front office, now he's going to be totally uncomfortable around his teammates, and that's just going to alienate things more, that these people would, anonymously complain about Russell Wilson and how he goes about his business and how he interacts with his teammates.
Yeah, but talking about a double standard, too, like, can an average teammate relate to Peyton Manning? The guy is like hosting Saturday Night Live, or Tom Brady. So I don't know.
Well, those guys seem to have like a certain amount of like, wow, but I want a little bit of privacy too. They put themselves out there, but they don't always put themselves out there. Russell Wilson, he sort of saw that spotlight and feels like he ran towards it, which is cool. I definitely get that. I would do the exact same thing. But I think there's also a difference though between like, there's like, yeah, all the guys here, and then there's like, well, yeah, but that's the guy who like always talks to the bosses, or like, I don't know, yeah, he's kind of, I don't know what
like a double
right
agent, almost like a double agent.
Yep.
Well, speaking of double agent, he's sort of portraying this James Bond quarterback thing of having the tuxedo in his car to jet off at any moment.
There it is.
I get that.
007.
No problem with keeping a tux in the back of your truck. It always blows out, though. Oh, well, another story that caught your attention was the UNC academic scandal. I mean, Fritzy, how tough was it to book the AD Bubba Cunningham during all of this?
It wasn't all that tough. I was surprised that he agreed to do it. Obviously, when it's something negative like this and you're talking about for what was going on 20, 30 years, maybe even more. And granted, this goes on, in a lot of other schools. But, North Carolina's got to deal with this. We reached out to the lead investigator who we were kicking around having on the show. But I guess you could do one of two things. You deal with it and you confront it and you accept the invitation and talk about it, or you cower and hide and just say no comment, or just wait to see how things play out as far as where it goes from here, and as far as punishments that the school may get, that they self-impose or from the NCAA. But I'm glad he agreed to do it, and they got back to me as North Carolina Sports Information relatively quickly and said that Bubba Cunningham would be willing to chat with Dan about it.
Well, UNC's athletic director did call in and talked about how all these paper classes got started.
The department chair in our African American Studies program at the time was a very hands-off manager and allowed the office manager to run the program with little or no faculty involvement at all, as it turned out. And so a person was giving an assignment, students were writing a paper and turning it in, and then it was being graded by the office manager. And so that's what happened. But to answer your question of is it happening today, no, the last time that happened was in 2011.
I think he's being a little naive to think it's not happening today. I mean, on every college campus, there's classes that are athlete-friendly, and the problem is they're usually probably not broadcast as much as this one was. This class probably was around for over a decade, he said, and so it becomes a thing that everyone passes on to the next generation. Then finally, somebody blows a whistle. That's how things usually end. But I mean, it was funny. We had Brady Quinn, and we're going to probably show that tape. He said, "Man, I wish those were available when I was going there, because if I was a freshman football player." And I was picking up my classes, I'd probably just pick up my class like everybody else. But if I had some advisor or some older senior saying, hey man, take this class, you don't have to show, you get a B, how would you say no when you're 18 years old to something like that? You haven't even picked a major yet, and someone's gonna say, I give you 10 hours of free time a week that you wouldn't have because of this class, and you get a B. Or you could take a class and really work. Even if you're a serious student and take your career academically seriously, that would be hard to pass up.
I like that he said that it stopped just before he got there. Yeah. He's like, well, I've been here for 3 years, and it stopped just before
2
that.
2 days before I started here.
Well, let's go to Mr. Academic Seriousness. McLovin, what's the most athlete-friendly course you've ever taken?
Well, it's funny, there's two. There was Rocks for Jocks, which was geography. But then there was this course called astronomy, which everyone figured was a gut and was easy. I thought it was like, I'm a Libra. Turned out it was like advanced physics.
The interesting thing is that we're no brainiacs here, but even in my brief time at West Virginia, I took geology, which was the
Rocks for Jocks. Yeah.
Geography is more maps.
Geography is more maps and stuff like that.
Did I say geography?
That's okay. Either way.
But you got a C in that class.
That might actually explain the problem, is that you were looking more at, like, what are these maps the Earth made up of under all these states?
You may have.
And instead, you could just...
I thought you said, would you say geology?
I slurred my entire words there.
You were trying to say geology.
But, by the way, I did not do well in either of those classes. But that's because I never attended either of them.
Yeah, I remember some counselor at NYU when we were just starting out saying, don't think taking a class like astronomy is going to be, you're just going to kick back and see the Little Dipper and Big Dipper and see stars. He goes, you'll see stars, all right, if you take that class. It's
hard, right?
It was. I didn't take it because from what I was told, it was like one of the hardest classes being offered. I took a class called Sociology of the Family and an art class, and I thought those were going to be easy. And again, both of those ended up being very difficult and having to try to memorize a bunch of paintings and what years they were made and what kind of ink they used and what kind of canvas. It was brutal, not a good time.
I had a professor that said, do not drop this course Pascal unless I've talked to you. Do not drop it. I walked in after the first test. He could not have signed my drop slip quicker than he did. It's like, oh, yeah, I saw your test. Get out of here. Okay, coming up, we got a poll question that got Dan all fired up. We'll tell you about it next.
Would you rather be Baby Jordan or Aroldis Chapman? Take your pick.
Baby Jordan.
Chapman.
Oh, you're going Aroldis Chapman, you
No
knuckleheads.
Yeah, winning the slam dunk contest would be the coolest thing ever.
If I can throw 105 on the FM dial, give me a break, dude.
Like a Baby Jordan.
Welcome back to the box score. You just saw Dan get all heated over that poll question. McLovin, is that the most fired up you've ever seen the boss over a poll question debate?
I can't remember if I've ever seen him walk off for the mic because he was so mad at us.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you guys ever seen that?
Nope.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, to get that passionate and frustrated with our responses, where he felt like he could not contain himself and had to get up out of his chair and move away from the mic, was definitely a first from what I've seen.
Well, you guys chatted about it. Here it is.
Even just take it to basketball. I think I'd rather be Vince Carter than a guy who won 5 NBA titles.
So, would you rather be Tim Duncan or Vince Carter?
I'd Vince Carter every day.
Oh my
Every single time.
Jump over Frederick Weiss.
What?
Would I rather be?
Speaking of North Carolina.
Dan just walked off.
Well, he left.
Dude, have you guys ever seen Vince Carter dunk? It's the most amazing thing ever.
Uh-oh.
I've never seen him this upset at us. This is great.
Dude, it's like you've never seen Vince Carter.
I've seen Vince Carter. Would I rather be Tim Duncan or Vince Carter? People listen to this show because they think we have insight, that we're intelligent.
They should know better.
Andy, kudos to you. Amen. Because it's probably one thing that we couldn't be more in agreement on. And actually, I think I took a little bit more of a strong stance on this one, only because it was getting Dan so worked up.
I'm sure you did, because you literally looked over at me and say, I'm not really that passionate about this one, but I love that he's getting upset.
Oh man, it was so great to see him all upset. As soon as he stood up, I was like, oh, I'm in 1,000% on the greatness of Vince Carter right now. And I love Vince Carter. Like, I like watching exciting players, and not, Tim Duncan. He's got a bunch of rings. He's just not very exciting for me. It's kind of like
Dan's never liked Vince Carter. Never liked Vince Carter like that way. He appreciates it. He thinks he's a good player, but he's never been into Vince-sanity. But I've been around Vince Carter. There's nobody that attracts attention like Vince Carter back in the day. It was like a Dr. J.
I would never have guessed he'd have such intense feelings that it's so obvious that you would take being able to throw 100 miles an hour over dunking. I know he played a little baseball, but I always saw Dan as a basketball guy, and to be able to show off to the shorties and grab a ball at any park or any court around the city and do your dunking instead of having to have a catcher or set up someone that can measure how fast you're throwing and what the steps it would take to.
But I don't think that's what he was saying. I think he was saying if I could dunk, I could dunk and I could show off. If I could throw 100, I could buy a house. Yeah, I think that's what Dan's mentality was. If I throw 100, someone's signing me, I'm going to buy a house, probably be set for life if I'm not an idiot. If I could just dunk, I could find a guy around the corner who could dunk.
Yeah, I thought we should have maybe come down.
Yeah, and he's going to take your money, too, at the
We should come down to 95, but you guys say 95 is not quite rare enough to guarantee it.
Definitely not.
No, 95.
95 is pretty good, though. I wouldn't mind for
us.
It isn't just
for a career.
Even throwing fast 100 miles an hour is great, but if you can't hit the strike zone, it really doesn't matter. You have to have a certain amount of control.
Get in the heater.
They'll give you a chance if you can throw 100 miles an hour, but it's not like it's a guaranteed thing.
The hammer.
Well, DP would like to chuck it at a C note, but he was also pretty high on Tim Duncan, so much so that he was given a reenactment of the highlight reel with the full of bank shots
he missed?
Nifty footwork, square in the shoulders. Look at that. The cardio's there. Fritzy, after this display, are you willing to take Dan's side on this argument?
I'm still not going to take the inside. That was very impressive. But we've seen him have all kinds of trick shots, so nothing really shocks me anymore with what he's able to do.
By the way, his range is from, I guess, 4 feet to 25 feet. Because from 0 to 4 feet, he was awful.
Yeah, he missed like 5 shots in a row.
I go, I don't think he's missing on purpose, and because he's supposed to be Tim Duncan, but
highlight reel. It's supposed to be a good thing.
A whiff.
And with the whiff. Okay, stick around. We're going to head out to the tailgate. We have some items that will make you the star of the party. Welcome back to the Boxer. You guys got a ton of cool stuff in the man cave, but this week you have been enjoying a special new toy. It is a remote control cooler with Dan Patrick written all over it. It's bringing, it brought goodies to Seton on Monday. I believe the Old Miss cowbell probably went over to Polly. And of course some items for Fritzy, which he promptly went back and ruined in the back room into a bathroom and a door that he, by the way, did not close. Then of course McLovin here getting some auto Ivy League asphyxiation or something perhaps.
Slash predictable.
Polly, is this magical cooler the perfect tailgating device?
It is. It's pretty cool. I'm concerned, how it's going to do in the weather in the hills outside. Like if we're at Morgantown, it's hilly. Different places like that. But it's pretty cool. I mean, people saw it on TV. Like, where can I get one of those? But tailgate people are fascinating. I've gone to some big-time SEC tailgates, and to see the money that people spend on their things that they use
their rigs
6 or 7 times a year is pretty fascinating.
Well, we've got some items that you might want to spend your money on. We went searching through the interweb and found some nifty items like this. Looking to sneak some shellback into the stadium? Why not do it in a bottle of sunscreen or a bottle that looks like one? It holds up to 8 ounces, and the top screws on extra tight to save your tasty beverage. Seton, you're going to log on after the show and buy one of these?
How do you know I don't own one?
I'm just guessing.
That type of commitment screams drinking problem, because I've snuck booze into sporting events. I've literally taped beers to my legs.
You just snuck booze into what movie did you just go see?
But a flask, like a gentleman.
Yeah, okay.
I was a gentleman about it.
But you're still sneaking booze.
I brought a flask in like a man. But sunblock, it seems a little like a little hokey. And I brought a boat in before, full of stuff,
I had a buddy who went on, I went to Catholic school and we had to go on retreat every year, and one of my friends snuck in a bunch of booze on retreat, which is great, by taking a syringe and injecting Twinkies with Jack Daniels. And that was his big move to sneak booze into the 3-day retreat where you're supposed to be all religious stuff.
Possibly,
maybe some
Twinkies.
We grew up with season tickets to the Eagles game, and I swear I remember, this is not an exaggeration, they snuck, someone came in a wheelchair and they had a beer ball. Remember beer ball?
Oh, beer balls.
Stuck underneath the wheelchair, and there was they built a platform in so they could sneak in a beer ball. Because I don't know why, it's a better price.
On the opposite side of the spectrum, I went to my first Yale game when I was maybe 2001, 2002, Yale football. Not a high level of security in and out of the old Yale Bowl. And I brought in literally a 12-pack of beer in like a shopping bag with me and my friends. And we just literally opened up and sat there, and no one said a word to us because we weren't belligerent. But we didn't even have ice. We just had cold beer in a brown paper bag.
They don't sell beer inside the stadium.
Not on the property. Right? No beer at all. So, but we just put it down and nobody said a word because there was no security whatsoever.
It doesn't say BYOB on the ticket, does it, Paulie? No.
It should.
Well, maybe not mess around with the flask. Maybe you go big time and do it this big. You bring your own keg along with a tow hitch kegerator. Keeps your keg nice and frosty, and it'll tap to pour out 160 glasses of beer, complete with speakers, subwoofer, and an iPod dock. All right, Paulie, now maybe this is more in your wheelhouse.
I'm going shopping. That looks awesome. I mean, that's the thing. My wife is lucky that I don't have unlimited funds and we live in the South, because I would be insufferable. I would, clear out the bank account to buy stuff like that.
That looks good. I'd put my Mountain Dew and my Dr. Brown's black cherry soda in there. Get the LL
keg full of Mountain Dew
and Run DMC going. That does look pretty cool.
Can you picture Fritzy pulling into like the Alabama parking lot with his Mountain Dew?
Yeah,
that'd be me.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'd fit in, buddy.
Probably not.
Well, you'd probably need 2 cars, one to get the Mountain Dew kegerator and one to pull this. It is a tailgating stripper pole. You can bring Cinnamon and all her friends to entertain your buddies.
Look at that.
I mean, Fritzy, that's got to be better than a night at the OG.
That's really all you need. I don't know why these people have all these fancy cars and grills and things with logos and flags on it. You get the stripper pole going, you're all set.
I was in Seattle a year or two ago tailgating at a Seahawks game, and I found myself involved with some dancing poles. What's the word I can use?
Adult
here?
entertainment poles?
Adult entertainment poles, because there were actually a lot of them in the tailgating section there, and something happens when you have a couple of beverages and you see that and you're like, yeah, I'll get up there, what's up? Like, so embarrassing.
For those who have video, send it to...
At the Box Score Show. Alexis, oh, well, bring your singles up to Seattle if you ever catch Seton up there and stuff his skinny jeans full of them. It's coming up, McLovin tries to kill a cameraman. You don't want to miss this. Welcome back to the Box Score. McLovin, you had a little problem on your way to the box today. I think you might have taken out Wild Bill on your way in there. See, that gets popped pretty good there. Can we get an update on Bill? Is he okay?
He's fine. Are you kidding me? That guy has been, afterwards he told stories. He used to do concert tours with the Rolling Stones, and once an explosion on stage actually literally blew him off stage into the crowd. You know, and if you talk to our cameraman, Wild Bill, you know, you would be so surprised that he's been probably concussed more than once.
Greatest stories.
I'll tell you two things. McLovin really didn't do much wrong. He put the door out there and Bill hit it. But secondly, you guys just put Wild Bill's face on TV. I expect a SWAT team to come in here to serve a series of warrants from the 60s and 70s any second.
Have you never heard of witness protection, guys?
Yeah. Witness protection, a.k.a. the Dan Patrick Show?
They're coming.
Help a brother out.
Yeah, you ever heard of the Weathermen? That was Bill.
It's a song group from the 50s, isn't it? Well, he hung in there and he's okay, but that didn't stop you guys from adding insult to injury.
Our cameraman took a shot.
I know.
Now, if this was the NFL, he would probably have to sit out the final hour.
Yeah.
You should test him.
Oh, you can't test him. Like, what's there to test?
What's the baseline?
I'm pretty sure,
question?
we hired him.
I think he had a concussion when we hired him.
It's called the 60s. And he was heavily concussed.
He might do better concussed than he would without a concussion.
I lived in a town called Concussion, Arizona once. Me, 4 other dudes in a double wide.
Concussion, Arizona.
It's not even on most maps.
I felt bad for Wild Bill. He's a tough guy, but if we start going through all kinds of testing, you know, who knows what's still in his system from back in the 60s and 70s. But we love Wild Bill, but we often wonder if he needs to be regularly checked for concussions and various medications in his body.
Well, if he's witness protection, maybe you send him someplace warm because he's, you know, legitimately bronchial, and get him just.
There's only 3 states he's allowed in, and Connecticut's one of them. So we're lucky. As this show stays here, we're good to go. But like, he's allowed Nova Scotia, here, Delaware, and I think Puerto Rico.
That's it.
Oh my God. Okay, Fritzy, who's on tomorrow?
That's territory.
Actor, comedian Howie Mandel from America's Got Talent, a judge on that show with Howard Stern.
St. Elsewhere star.
St. Elsewhere from 1982, I believe.
Ed Begley Jr.
Will join us in the New York City Man Cave. And Erin Heatherton makes another visit to the studio. She's got some NFL blankets of some sort. She's got a special delivery. So
is she a booked guest, or is she dropping off blankets?
Probably not a booked guest.
Because at first it was dropping off blankets, but I've seen her name in the guest rundown 18 times this week.
We did put her in the guest rundown, but I'd go 1.5. Howie Mandel would be a guest, and Erin will consider her a half guest. She's been on before, and I don't know if we're actually interviewing her or we're just going to watch her loveliness as she brings the blankets into the studio.
Okay, supermodels and blankets. It's a great combination. Thanks for watching the Box Score. Set your DVR or tune in weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Audience Channel 239. You also catch our podcast, available on iTunes or at podcast1.com. Thanks for watching, kids. Be safe.
I don't know a lot about sports, but I can drink a lot of beer.
My motto is simple. C's get degrees.
Need a long, inappropriate hug? I'm your man.
I think I'm smarter than you, because I probably am.
Hey! Thanks for watching the Box Score. Holy cow!
This was a presentation of DirecTV, exclusive home of the Red Zone channel, the Fantasy Zone, the Dan Patrick Show, 20 years of NFL Sunday Ticket, the Rich Eisen Show, and America's premier source for sports television.